Okay team, I am here to talk to you about running FPP on a Raspberry Pi and controlling your FM transmitter by the scheduler on the Raspberry Pi through FPP. So as you can see, I've got FPP up, and if I go to the scheduler, if I can find where that is, here we go. If I go to the scheduler, you can see that I've got one line item in here, and I'll edit it now so that we can see. So when I choose on, it's going to turn on the FM transmitter, and when I select off, it should turn off the transmitter. And this is all done by the GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi switching a relay. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is how to get this set up, what I've done here. So to start with, this one line in here is really all you need, right? You need, well, maybe a line for on and a line for off, but you don't need to go into any other menus and set up the GPIOs within FPP to make this happen. This one area here is all you need. So as you can see, my Raspberry Pi here, and I've got the relay with some wires coming out, input wires and output wires. So really all this is this T line. I'm taking the power in that normally comes with your FM transmitter, and I'm going into this this Y harness that I made, and I'll explain this here in a minute. But let me look over this, okay? So again, like I said, there's a relay in here. I'll show you that relay. So this relay here is a 5-volt relay, and that's all you need. And you have your output pins here and your input pins on the other side, and I'll show you more detail of that in a minute. To hook it up to the Raspberry Pi, what you'll need is the pinouts for the Raspberry Pi. So starting over here on pin 2, if we look at pin 2, or 4, doesn't matter, but I used pin 2 for 5 volts. That 5 volts is going to go into the relay and this ground as well. So those two together is what is able to energize the relay. This pin 7 is the GPIO that we're going to use to trigger the relay. So this is the trigger line, and we've got the power and the ground for the relay. So coming out of here is just part of the power for the FM transmitter. So let me show you a little bit more about that. Let me move this out of the way. So I'll just connect all this to show you. So this case here, I 3D printed this case, and this case was actually this case that I downloaded off of Thingiverse, and it's just a 2-piece case, and it had this fancy graphic, and I was just trying out different colors for it, but I went into Fusion 360 and was able to modify this case. So I modified it like this. I took the graphic off, and I put in a hole here, and let me show you what that looks like. So there's actually a hole right here on the top of this case, and this little hat here is a separate piece. It's just a friction fit. I pushed it into place, and that's what holds this relay. I've got a couple of screws in there, one here and one here, holding this board in place, and so I've got 3 wires coming in on this one side, right? So like I was mentioning before, here's pin 2 is 5 volts, and pin 6 is the ground. I'm way off camera here. There we go. And then pin 7 is our trigger, right? Our switch. So what happens is this relay is taking in 5 volts and ground to be able just to run the relay. Now, as soon as I trigger this switch that the scheduler triggers, this switch goes high, which means it goes from 0 volts to 3.3 volts. And that's what tells the relay, hey, do your magic. And when it does that, it flips this relay, which is like flipping a switch. And that's what these 3 terminals are. So one of them, this middle one, is the common. And then one's like a normally closed and a normally open. I think it's the other way around in this case. This is the normally open switch. So that just means open, it's not letting any current through, right? It's not connected. And we're not using this. We're only going to use 2 of these, the middle one and one of these 2. So this harness here, this T harness, what that's really doing is you've got a positive and a negative, and over here you've got a positive and a negative, and this just transfers the power from the wall through this relay and back out. So the ground here, the black wire, it just goes straight through, right? There's no stops here. But the red line, the power line, 12 volt, is it comes in this way, comes over to here, into one of these terminals, it doesn't matter which one, and then the other one comes out and over to here. And like I said, it doesn't matter, you can't mess this up. As long as they're both your power lines, you're good to go. So once that's set up, then you put this all together. There's really no programming that you have to do. You just tell the scheduler, if I can get this up and running again, you tell the scheduler here that you want to run a command, right? What schedule type the command? You want the it to be the GPIO, and then when this edit in the beginning of your show for the night, you're going to turn everything on, and at the end of your show, at the end of the night, you're going to trigger it to turn off. And so that is complete hands-free to turn on and off your FM transmitter with your Raspberry Pi running FPP. So I hope that made sense. Anyway, one more thing too, because I've tried this before. Be careful if you're going to be ordering some relays. Here's another relay that I tried to use, and I didn't do a very good job of looking at this. It looked like it was working, but because the LED lights were running and everything. But this is, I don't want to bring it up too close because I'm afraid it's not going to focus on me. See if I can get that focus there. So this is a 12 volt relay. That means it's expecting 12 volts in, and I was only giving it 5 volts in. So because of that, it was still, the relays were, or the LEDs were working, but the relay wasn't tripping, and because it just didn't have enough power to make that happen. So if you want to do this again, and you're going to buy a relay for this, you can use a 5 volt relay because this is the 5 volt pin. But if you find a 3.3 volt relay, you can still use that because this pin number 1 down here, that's 3.3 volts. So you can have 3.3 volts and 5 volts, and you can see that again on the pinouts, right? Pin number 1 is 3.3 volts, and you can use the same ground if you want to. So it would be 1, 6, and 7, but this setup here is a 2, 6, 7. All right, thanks much, and good luck.